Over the weekend, two friends decide to enjoy the day on one of California's beaches. While sunbathing, Bree notices that Ashley is more concerned with answering her boyfriend's messages than enjoying her company. So the young woman decides to take a dip in the ocean and, while she's swimming distracted, Bree ends up being chased by a shark. Seeing her friend in danger, Ashley starts screaming to try and warn her, but by the time she realizes she's being followed, it's too late, as the predator is on her tail. Quickly, Bree tries to swim back to the beach. Then, just as the girl is about to get bitten, a sea monster emerges from the depths and uses its tentacles to capture the shark. After devouring the fish, the half-octopus, half-shark hybrid goes after Bree, but at that moment he receives a command to swim in the opposite direction and, luckily, the girl manages to escape unharmed. A few hours after the attack, a group of scientists study the images recorded by the beach's security camera and celebrate the great success of their experiment. The truth is that this mutant creature was created in a laboratory and nicknamed S-11. When presenting his new project to the commander of the US Navy, Nathan Sands claims that his team has complete control over the monster. The scientists use a device attached to the sharktopus to give specific commands and have made the creature move away from the beaches after eliminating the shark that was about to devour Bree. The bioengineer responsible for creating this monster is Nicole Sands, Nathan's daughter, and she explains in detail how the device that acts as a collar to control the animal's movements works. Watching the footage, Cox is impressed with what Nicole and her team have been able to do, but says that before the S-11 can be used by the Navy to hunt down criminals, further tests will need to be carried out to prove its effectiveness. Just then, the captain spots two men on the high seas having fun on a speedboat and orders Nicole to send Sharktopus to attack the vessel. At first, the scientist refuses to follow Cox's orders because she doesn't want to risk hurting innocent people. However, Nathan knows that his laboratory will need more investment from the government to continue his research, so he convinces his daughter to follow the commander's orders. During the chase, the pair try to escape from the creature and, while maneuvering the speedboat, they accidentally remove the control device that was attached to S-11's body. At that moment, the creature goes completely berserk and stops responding to Nicole's commands. Terrified, the men try to turn around, but their boat collides with a large rock and explodes. After freeing itself from the control board, S-11 manages to escape and the scientists are in despair because they know that the creature is extremely dangerous. That afternoon, while painting the outside of a ship, two men are captured and devoured by Sharktopus. Knowing the risk the monster could pose to humanity if it remains unleashed, Cox says he will cut off all funding to the Blue Water Research Center until Nathan and his team manage to capture the sea creature. Using a GPS implanted in S-11, the scientists discover that he is on his way to Mexico and decide to go there. According to his migratory instincts, Nathan believes that Sharktopus will feed along the coast for a few days before continuing its journey. So the team's mission is to capture the creature before it goes on to its next destination. A few months ago, Andy Flynn was fired from Blue Water and returned to Mexico to be near his family. Since then, the young man has decided to take a year off to calm down and, when he finds out that Nathan wants to hire him back to help with a mission, Andy refuses the invitation. However, when he is informed that S-11 has escaped, he changes his mind and goes to meet the rest of the team. In the morning, while using a metal detector to search for treasures on the beach, a young girl is captured by Sharktopus and dragged into the ocean, where her body is devoured by the monster. Seeing his former employee equipped with a gun, Nathan forbids him to use it against S-11, as the hunter's aim is to capture him, not eliminate him. According to Nicole, the plan consists of using a tranquilizer to sedate the creature and then hitting it with a control dart. After hearing the strategy developed by Nathan and Nicole, Andy agrees to be recruited for the mission in exchange for a payment of $300,000. Knowing that this young man is the best chance his team has of recovering Sharktopus, Nathan accepts the deal, but says he will only make the payment if they manage to bring the creature back alive. Among the many tourists in town is a newlywed couple who went to Mexico to enjoy their honeymoon. In order to make that trip the most exciting of their lives, they decided to add some extreme sports to their schedule and decided to go bungee jumping. After the first jump, Mary was so excited that she decided to jump again, but this time she was surprised by the arrival of S-11, who quickly jumped out of the water and devoured her. A few kilometers away is the boat of Captain Jack, who works presenting the pirate radio programs. During the bulletin board, the man receives a letter from the authorities asking the town's residents to stay away from the beaches, as there is a dangerous sea creature just 3 kilometers off the coast of Playa del Sol. After breaking the news, Jack and Stephanie start laughing, believing it to be a fake letter sent by a film crew shooting a movie in the area. Like them, many people ignored the news and, that afternoon, hundreds of bathers crowded the city's beaches. However, Stacey Everhart, an independent journalist, decides to investigate the existence of this half-shark, half-octopus creature. With the help of Ryan Kingsbury, the woman and her cameraman arrive at Playa del Sol and start recording in the hope of getting some footage of the monster. Meanwhile, Nicole and her group of hunters are on the high seas looking for S11. To ensure his safety, Nathan prefers not to accompany his daughter and decides to enjoy the day on a yacht until the mission is completed. With the help of a laptop, Nicole manages to access the program used to track the location of her target and says that S11 is 3 kilometers south of that location. While recording a story for the newspaper, announcing the possible existence of the sea monster, Bones sees the hybrid creature approaching the beach and Ryan rushes to warn the bathers. When he enters the water to fetch a ball, Mark ends up becoming a target and is attacked by the monster. Sharktopus then crawls across the sand in search of new victims and captures all the humans he comes across. Terrified by the horror scene, Bones can barely move and continues recording until he realizes that S11 is approaching. At this point, Stacey and her friends run away and the shark continues to try to climb up to the runway, but ends up falling back into the water while trying to hold onto a vehicle that was stopped in the parking lot. After the fall, the animal returns to the bottom of the ocean and the journalist rushes to warn the authorities about the attack. On their way back to the beach, Andy and Nicole spot a body floating in the sea and soon realize that Sharktopus is nearby. Meanwhile, Nathan is resting on his yacht when he is tipped off about a story on TV. In the report, Stacey discloses the images collected by her cameraman and the existence of the hybrid created by the Blue Water Company comes to light. When he lands on a deserted island to look for new clues as to the whereabouts of S11, Andy says he is curious to know the reason for all those attacks, because he knows very well that sharks and octopuses don't attack for nothing. However, Nicole claims not to know the reason for his behavior and is furious when Andy accuses her father of having modified the monster's DNA to make him even more aggressive. When the team returns to the boat, Andy and his team prepare to take a dive in the hope of hitting the creature with a tranquilizer dart. The young man's aim is to sedate the animal and force it to swim to the surface so that Santos can hit it with the remote-controlled dart. After that, S11's actions will be under Nicole's command. At that moment, Nathan receives a call from Commander Cox, who orders him to capture the hybrid before new images are published in the media. Whatever happens, people can't know that Sharktopus is linked to the US Navy, because if that information leaks out, they'll be doomed. During the dive, Andy and his team approach a coral reef and suddenly the S11 appears. At that moment, one of the divers is devoured by the creature, which gobbles him up before he has a chance to hit it with the tranquilizer. At the moment of the attack, Andy takes the opportunity to fire, but misses his target. Soon afterwards, the hunter has to flee because the shark decides to go after him. When he finally manages to get back to the boat, the young man reveals that his companions have been devoured and he very nearly suffered the same fate. Although he managed to survive, Andy didn't make it out unscathed and he enlists Santos' help to bandage the wound on his leg. Just then, Nicole receives a call from her father and reveals that S11 has managed to escape. Impressed by the hybrid's ferocious attack, the young woman asks if it has undergone any genetic alterations and Nathan reveals that he has asked his team of scientists to increase the predator's aggressiveness in order to make it even more lethal. When she discovers that her father has altered S11's DNA without her permission, Nicole is furious and feels betrayed, as she was the one who conceived the project. However, Nathan shows no regrets and orders his daughter to concentrate on her mission to rescue that hybrid before he eliminates any more people. On the way to the next stop, Santos spots the boat being piloted by Ryan and Andy approaches to warn him that this is a restricted area. When he realizes he's being ignored, Andy decides to shoot into the air to scare them off, and Ryan immediately decides to get the hell out of there. In an attempt to stop him, Stacey steals the key from the ignition and throws it downstairs. Then, when he goes downstairs to get it back, Ryan ends up being captured by the shark. After devouring him, the creature goes after Stacey and is about to catch her when Andy starts shooting. Frightened by the shots, the monster returns to the ocean and Santos decides to follow it, but Andy can't land any shots. Minutes later, a few kilometers from the coast, Bob is having fun on his jet ski when he suddenly realizes that the vehicle has stopped working. As he tries to start the boat, Sharktopus appears and uses his tentacles to drag his prey into the water. The creature then returns to capture the other two bathers and, on seeing Eddie being attacked, Lisa despairs. As the woman shouts her friend's name, a pair of tentacles appears right behind her and pulls her into the ocean. After almost being wiped out on the high seas, Stacey and Bones return to shore. While the journalist is on the phone talking to her informants, the cameraman takes the opportunity to drink numerous bottles, as he has been traumatized by everything he has been through with the monster. After the call, Stacy reveals that the boat they found was rented by an American company called Blue Water. According to his informant, that organization specializes in genetic engineering and was most likely responsible for creating that hybrid. When he realizes that his coworker is excited about the story, Bones is impressed, because even after seeing a man eliminated right in front of her, Stacy hasn't given up on her investigation. Worried about what might happen if the S-11 isn't captured, Nicole decides to tell Andy the truth and reveals that her father has modified the creature's DNA to make it more aggressive. After images of Sharktopus are leaked on TV, Stephanie asks Captain Jack to inform his audience about the danger of staying on the beaches. However, the man is convinced that those scenes are nothing more than special effects and begins to joke about the attacks. Furious, Stephanie lectures her boss and hopes he's right. Just then, the hybrid appears and captures Jack. At that moment, a couple is on a boat in the middle of the ocean and Maria is trying to convince her husband to go back to the resort. However, Mark refuses to leave before catching a fish and tries to reassure his wife that they are safe inside the boat. As he is unable to dive, Andy decides to start a new strategy to lure S-11 to the surface and spreads fish blood in the water, hoping that the smell will attract the predator. After spending almost an hour fishing, Mark finally manages to catch a fish and celebrates his victory with his wife. Just then, Sharktopus appears and uses his tentacles to knock down the mast and sink the ship. During the attack, the couple decide to jump into the water to try and survive, but Mark is soon attacked and Maria is about to be devoured when S-11 begins to be attracted to the smell of blood. Seeing the creature approaching the boat, Nicole asks the young man to get ready to shoot and Santos starts looking for the monster in the water. While hanging from the side of the boat, the man ends up being captured by the tentacles and dragged out to sea. Immediately, Nicole and Andy try to pull their friend back, but Sharktopus manages to take him to the bottom of the ocean and devours him. When he comes across the monster, Andy starts shooting, but the creature manages to escape, leaving the young man furious at having lost one of his best friends. Blinded by the desire for revenge, the young man decides to cancel the capture mission and starts a new plan to eliminate that shark once and for all. While he's piloting, the S-11 appears behind the boat and attacks Nicole, but Andy manages to scare the monster away with his shots. After the scare, the scientist says she's fine and asks Andy to capture the monster before it reaches the resort. The problem is that, during the attack, the boat's propellers were damaged and stopped working. So the young woman decides to call her father for help and is disappointed to realize that his only concern is whether Sharktopus has been injured by a gunshot. At that moment, Andy picks up the phone and Nathan realizes that he is furious, so he offers the young man $1 million to capture the creature alive. However, even in the face of this tempting offer, the young man decides to continue with his plan and says that he will eliminate the monster. In an attempt to prevent his $1 million project from being destroyed, Nathan decides to take control of the yacht and steers it towards the coast. As they approach the resort, Andy takes his gun and leaves the boat to look for S-11, so Nicole decides to go after him. Soon afterwards, Nathan also arrives on the scene and orders his men to track the GPS attached to his daughter's computer. At the time, the guests are distracted watching a circus show and only realize the presence of Sharktopus when the animal attacks one of the members of the show. Seeing the chaos, the customers try to escape and run back to the hotel. When they hear people screaming, Andy and Nicole discover the creature's whereabouts and go to find it to try to stop the attack. However, even after being hit by countless shots, the monster is still alive and manages to escape through a canal that leads directly to the river. Immediately, Andy goes after his target, but ends up being surrounded by Nathan, who arrives at the resort with a team of armed security guards. At this point, the man says that he will give the young man one more chance to reconsider his proposal, but Andy refuses to continue working for him. At this point, even Nicole agrees that S-11 needs to be finished, but Nathan says he will never allow anyone to destroy the project he has dedicated his entire life to building. During the argument, Sharktopus appears and attacks the security guards. Faced with this threat, the men have no choice but to start shooting, but the bullets are unable to eliminate the monster. When all his bodyguards have been eliminated, Nathan attacks Andy in an attempt to stop the shooting and the young man ends up being hit by the tentacles. After being hit, he collapses and Nicole begins to be dragged by the leg. Realizing that his daughter is in danger, Nathan becomes desperate and starts shooting at the monster. At this point, the young woman manages to free herself, but sees her father being attacked right in front of her. After eliminating his creator, Sharktopus escapes once again and Nicole tries to help Nathan, but he ends up dying in her arms. Andy then gets up and tries to console her friend, but all the scientist wants at that moment is revenge for her father's perishment. Suddenly, Stacy shows up and manages to convince Andy to let her accompany him on his mission to do some filming. In return, she offers to borrow her van to take them to the river. Minutes later, while swimming in search of new prey, S11 finds a waterfall full of tourists and attacks the bathers. After eliminating the people in the water, the monster uses its tentacles to invade the restaurant and adds to its extensive list of victims. Just then, Andy and his team arrive on the scene and the young man realizes he's out of ammunition. So the young man has to improvise a new attack and Nicole reveals that there is an explosive attached to the monster's brain. The safety device was deployed even before Sharktopus was released into the ocean. However, the switch that was supposed to be used to activate it became inoperative when the control board was removed now. The only way Nicole can trigger it is if Andy manages to hit the creature with the control dart, because that way, the scientist will be able to establish a connection between the shark's brain and her computer. While the couple go after the creature, Stacy ends up getting separated from her cameraman and, minutes later, finds Bones' camera with blood on the floor. When she realizes that her coworker has been eliminated, she decides to take the camera and continue filming alone. However, the woman's plans are interrupted by the arrival of S11, who captures her with his tentacles and then strikes her heart. While the animal is distracted by the attack, Andy manages to hit it with the dart and then runs away. However, due to the injury to his leg, he can't get very far and has to use a piece of wood to keep the creature at bay while Nicole tries to establish a connection with the explosive that has been attached to the shark's brain. After hacking into the system, the young woman tries to find the password needed to trigger the explosive. When Andy is about to be devoured by the monster, Nicole discovers the password and manages to trigger the mechanism that explodes S11's body. After eliminating the creature, the young people breathe a sigh of relief and Nicole helps her injured friend return home. So what did you think of this movie? Leave it in the comments below. And if you liked the video, like and subscribe for more movie recaps. See you next time.